visited us, we have never just sat down and I've never asked you about your past and where you were born and about your family and things like that. Why don't you just share with me and share with everyone else, of course, because we're making this film for your grandchildren and everyone, the place where you were born and your brothers and your dad and sisters and things like that. Just how did it all begin?
How many minutes we got? Well, it goes way back, you know, because I'm 70 years old now, you know, but I was the fourth child in our family, but my mother was married before she married my dad, and she married a Yandel. I can't get Sharon Yandel was his name, and she had two little boys for him, and Walter and Jim. And when they were just 2 and 3, their daddy died, and he was just 27 years old. He had double pneumonia back in the early 1900s. And so she went to live with her sister and her husband, and they never had any children. And so their names were Aunt Nan and Uncle Ed, and they're the sweetest old couple you ever saw. I just love to go to their house and stay some, you know, and visit. And my mother worked, and my Aunt Nan kept them, and she just fell in love with them two little boys. And so when my mother met my daddy, they were living in Charlotte at the time, and so my daddy went up there to work, and she met him, and so they decided to get married, and Aunt Nan she just cried and cried because they was taking the boys away, and so they took them and brought them all the way to Rockingham to live, because my dad's people all lived in Rockingham, and so they cried for their Aunt Nan so bad to Mama after she got pregnant with the first little boy, she had a little girl. She carried them up there to stay. They came and got them, and they went up there. And so Aunt Nan and Uncle Eb just raised the two boys.
Okay.
And I don't ever remember them. And then my mother had a little girl named Emma, and she died with pneumonia in the early 1900s with pneumonia. And then she had Jake, my oldest brother.
Name is Jake?
He was named after my granddad. And, but when we came to Rockingham, I was just 7 years old when we moved to Rockingham. And but I had a brother named Herbert, and then Evelyn was born, the little girl, and then I was born, and then Melvin. And but we were when they first got married, they lived in McCall, South Carolina, and then we moved to Rockingham, and I was just 7 years old, and we built a house on my granddad's farm. He had a big farm, and he willed all the boys and the daughter about 20 acres of land apiece. He had a lot of land. He had 6 boys and 1 girl, and my granddad did. And so after we lived there, and you know, we just loved the farm. Well, we didn't have a farm. We had just a garden and maybe some pigs and chickens. But my dad, he made mattresses. He had a mattress plant, and my mother helped him there in the mattress plant. And when I was 13, she passed away, and it was just real hard because she passed away in 1931. But you know, I had to grow up real quick because she died, and my sister was 4 years older than I was. And
what was her name?
Her name was Evelyn. And she got married the next year after my mother died, and so and then we couldn't even make our payments on our house that my dad had built.
How much were the monthly payments?
$15 a month. Isn't that something? And but we sold it and got a 4-room house, and we were moving in that morning, and we had moved about 2 truckloads, and they came back for lunch. And when they went back, they had built a fire in the little fireplace, and I guess it was in March, and the wind blew hot coals down on the floor.
Blew it down on the floor.
And by the time they got back over there, the house had burnt completely up. So we had to move into town then. We got an
So
apartment.
you sold the other house, hadn't you?
Yes, and
So
didn't
you
have
had no home.
insurance.
And no
Well,
insurance?
And I mean, everybody was having it hard in 1931, 32, and then
You moved into an apartment, you say?
and we moved in an apartment uptown, and so by that time I was, getting up to 14 or 15, and I worked in a dime store some, and my neighbor, he run a newspaper office, and he worked me some part-time too, and so that's how I got close and got to go to school, and
Well, at age
so-
18, so you had a brother named Melvin.
yeah, he was younger than I was.
He was a
He
baby.
was just 9, no 10 when mother died. And so, but we, when we were small, we just had a good time because my uncle had a fish pond, and we'd all go down swimming in it every afternoon in the summer, and my uncle, he raised watermelons, and we just, living on a farm is a lot of fun, I think, in a way. We thought it was, in a way, but we never saw a movie or anything like that till I was 16 years old. Ever got to go to a movie.
Hardly rode in the car, did you?
Yeah. I remember one time when we lived in McCall, I was just, couldn't have been over 5 or 6. I went to a silent movie. I remember going to a silent movie, and I thought that was fun, but
How about one time you were telling me, I recall you wanted a baby doll for Christmas, and your brother Walter,
my
half-brother
half-brother.
Walter, was up in New York, and he always sent him, because you think you thought he was rich, and
But he
he'd
wasn't.
always send Christmas boxes to the family down in Carolina. And so one year he sent a big box down, and you wanted a baby doll. You had never had a baby doll before.
I guess I'd had a little cloth baby doll, but I had never had one it would make a, say mama, or even had
So
shoes,
what happened?
And when they were carrying the big box over the steps and over the porch, the box turned over, and I heard a baby doll say mama.
That was, you knew that was for you.
We just we'd have a time because my brothers, they were kind of rough. My daddy, he'd tell them at Christmas, he said, Santa Claus not gonna bring you anything but switches, and we'd fool Herbert lots of times, and my mom would put switches down, where we all our stuff would be, and we'd hide his skates because that's what he wanted, the skates for Christmas.
So then you met Dad on a double date when you were 18,
Yeah.
and got married and moved out to the country.
Yeah, I learned how to churn milk and pick cotton and work in tobacco, cook for a big crowd of people, that worked in tobacco with us. And,
That was a sharecropping situation, wasn't it?
yes.
What's the sharecropping again?
Your dad was he was working in a cotton mill then. He was working there when we and him was going together, and got married. But he'd help his dad. We lived right there close to him. He'd help his dad. And sharecropping is just you don't have any money, and you find somebody that's got a lot of land, and they want somebody to tend their land, and the overseer, he furnishes the seed and fertilizer, and they do the crop on halves, and lots of times it's a poor way of living, but they'd have plenty of food, but there wasn't much left by the end of the year because you'd borrow money to buy a little food. You'd have to have coffee and
But you
it's
say
really
that when you moved up to the country, up on you moved back at the first year of your marriage up to the PD River, and you said
No.
that Aunt Sydney.
No, we didn't move the first year. you came along, you know, the next year, and then the next year we moved to the mill village then and stayed, you know, in a little 2-room house on the mill village, and so Bodie was born there.
I thought we were born in Midway.
Well, it was a mill village.
Oh, no village, okay.
And Bodie was born there, and then later we moved up on the river and lived in part of the house of Hurley's sisters.
But you have a real good memory of the river.
Yeah.
Because Aunt Sydney would babysit myself and Bogey,
For us to go
and
fishing.
so you and Dad could go down to the river and go fishing a lot of times in the evening.
And when people came, we lived so far back, you know, near the river, till when we see a car coming, we knew they were coming there, because there wasn't nowhere else to go except down to the river. You know, people had to pass out going to the river.
So you knew you had company.
But your daddy was born up there, you know, and that was the home place, and he felt so good to live up there, you know, to him.
He loved the river, didn't he?
Yeah, because in the wintertime, you know, he'd hunt and get turkeys, and I remember one time he came in, he had 4 geese, and he got up about 3 that morning, and, you know, it was real cold, and I think ice on the ground or snow, and he was so worn out by the time he got them 4 geese.
They were heavy.
Yeah, they were heavy. I don't know how much. We had geese for Christmas. It was about 2 days before Christmas.
They killed 4 big geese.
Big geese.
Oh my goodness.
They enjoyed it. I mean, he enjoyed it so much living up there. He didn't want to move away, but we moved back to Cordova, and then the other kids started coming. Well, we had Mickey and we had Steve and.
Would you stop this? Okay.
Mickey.
You moved to Cordova?
Well, yes, we moved to Cordova, and Mickey was born there, and so was Steve and Terry and Pat. We'd had 5 boys, and then finally had a little girl, and your dad was so tickled over that little girl. He just loved her to death.
Did she have a name?
Of course, I loved her too, but you know, it's so special after having 5 boys.
Yeah,
to have a
I
little
bet so.
girl, you know.
5 boys and then a girl.
You know,
And her name was Patsy Lou.
Yeah, we named her Patsy. She didn't like her long name, but it stayed with her all the time. We all call her Pat now since she's gotten grown up and she's got a family of her own now. But after she was born, we sold our house, and your dad's sister died, and his brother-in-law was just, he didn't know what to do. He was lost without her. And they had a farm had a crop started.
He had a boy, didn't he?
And yes, and so we moved up there and helped him with the farm, lived in his house, but we enjoyed that year. It was hard work, you know. We lived close to the peach pack house, and we worked in peaches, and we had cotton, but your dad's daddy and mother lived there, your grandma and grandpa.
That's where I got to know Grandpa and Grandma so good.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that time together with Grandma and Grandpa, because I got to know them, and I really loved my granddaddy.
And you was with him every day. You saw him every day.
I saw him every day, and he just mended peach boxes, and Grandma and I would churn milk on her back porch, and churn butter rather. And I had a chance to be with Bill, my first cousin, and he and I were squirrel hunters.
Just about a mile up the road, you know, your Uncle Bud and Daisy lived, and they had a big family too. They had 5 boys and 2 girls is what they had.
And Bob, Bernie, Maxine, Myrtle, Mary Lou, Bill.
And Bill, and Bill and Bob and Bernie. But you know, y'all went to school with them and played with them, and we worked together, and we just had a real good time, even if we did work hard.
We
We'd
worked
have
hard.
ice cream suppers and
It was hard
and
work.
chicken stews and things like that. It was good, you know, nice.
And then we left there and went back to Cordova.
No, we moved up on the Slate place then, you know. Don't you remember?
Oh, I
You
thought
remember then.
we went to Lek Parker's house.
Well, we did stay there a little while, but we went.
What was
up
his
to
name?
Slate.
Parker? What was this? Can't think of it. It was Parker.
But anyway, we moved up on the Slate place, and Sammy was born there, and we stayed
Sam
at the
was
Slate
born in
place.
Slate Place, uh-huh.
And that's when you've done a lot of tobacco work.
Oh,
You worked in the backer. They'd help us and we'd help them in the backer. Of course, you were working, you had quit school at
8:16.
school, yeah, and went to work in the mill, and your dad was working in the mill. Then your cousin Bob came up to stay with us a while. And of course, we were having some of them to come, stay with us a lot, back then.
Well, Mom, how come you didn't have any more kids? You had Sammy, and that was number 7.
That was enough.
And you thought that 7 was enough?
Yes,
You didn't want any more
that
girls?
was enough. Well, I thought maybe Sam would be a little girl, but he turned out to be a little boy. Anyway, we enjoyed staying there at Slate Place. It was kind of lonely, but it's a good place to raise a bunch of boys and a girl.
It was.
Because you just didn't have, when people came, they just came to stay a few hours, but we still, had other kids, because they loved to come to our house.
They sure
We
did.
had a little, Pickett Ellaby lived close to us, and he was the only child, and, he would just cry to stay with us, And he loved to sit down at our table and eat, and his mother said, he don't eat that at home, but he eats it here. Anything that we had, he just thoroughly enjoyed coming to our house. And the other boys too, they liked to come, because we just go rambling in the woods and have a good time,
Speaking of rambling in the woods, it was Pickett that rambled in the woods and in front of Bogey one time, and he brushed by a thorn bush, and the thorn came back and hit Bogey's eye, and it popped his outer skin loose, and it's been in there today. He can't see out of his eye that well, even to this day. But those were the times we didn't go to the
accidents
that happened.
Yeah, I remember Mickey, he fell over the barbed wire fence and just really ripped the side of his face, his neck here. But we didn't take him to the doctor. We just, put something on it.
Well, I cut my toe off. I was cutting a cord of wood, and with the axe, I thought I was going to cut a cord of wood. I went down there, and the axe glazed off the tree and chopped my toe half in two, and I didn't want to tell anybody because I was embarrassed, and I came up and put it up underneath the kerosene barrel. And it never did heal until I went to the ocean. But we just didn't go to the doctor, did we?
No, we sure did. But I want to say, something about my sister too, Evelyn. 4 years apart in our ages, we wasn't close, because she always tried to boss me when I was small, because, she had to keep me a lot because my mother was working. But after we both got married and had kids, we just had so many good Christmases together and so many times together, and I feel so close to her 2 girls. I mean, she's passed away, and so is Wendell, but this son, we can just remember such good memories with them, with her mother, with her and the girls, and I feel so close to them. They feel almost like
Jack
my
and
own,
Dolores.
yeah, own girls.
Oh, yeah.
Because y'all were raised with them practically, all your life. You've had them around.
They were like sisters to me, Jack and Dolores.
Yeah, y'all getting fights together, but still you loved each other.
But I never will forget Jack and Dolores' father. He loved to eat, and I enjoyed watching him eat collards and cornbread over on the Slate Place when he'd come down from Charlotte to eat with us on Sunday dinner. And he could sure eat. And I enjoyed watching that man eat.
I remember one time up on the river when we went fishing and they came up, and I cooked a platter so full of these little chicken perch, and I think he ate just about all of them himself. He just enjoyed them so much, and he just enjoyed food anyway. He just made you feel like, oh, it was so worth it to get in there and fry them, to see somebody really enjoy food, like he did.
His kidneys failed, and that's why he died early. He was how old?
43.
He was 43 when he died.
Was he a big man?
But
Was he big?
Yes, he was he was a large man. But he was always happy. I never saw him upset. But
and he loved my boys. He just had 2 girls, and they'd take them home with them. So many times they'd take them home.
take Bogey home a lot.
Well, and that Mickey and Steve, they've all went and spent nights with them,
Yeah.
because they loved to go, because they petted and pampered so much when they go.
They never got that when they were
They
home.
didn't get that much attention at home.
But let's go back to the kids, to my brothers and Pat. And, how were they when they were little? I'm sure I'm sure that all your kids would like to. I'm sure the grandkids would like to know something about their father now. What happened to them when they were growing up? Do you have any particular thing that happened to your boys that you'd like to share with the grandkids? Like with Mickey, how was Mickey? I understand he fell through the roof at school one time.
Oh, so many. I could just tell so many incidents of things that's happened, through the years. You couldn't even put them in a book. So many things. But I love all of you, and y'all mean so much to me. Every one of you.
How about the time that
Of course,
Patsy left home?
I think it's she didn't leave home.
Patsy, before she was 5 or 6 years of age.
Oh, it's just like most any little girl would do, she'd just get mad because her daddy petted her so much, and she'd say, I'm leaving home, you just treat me bad, or I'd be spanked her about something. She'd go get her little sack, and she'd put her some clothes in it here, she'd go down, she'd just get out of the yard good, and she'd turn around and come back,
About how often did she want to do that?
Oh, she did it there. She just had a little streak of doing it, for a little while there. 2 or 3 times she did it.
And Steve left home one time and walked about 1.5 miles, didn't he?
Yeah, he was going to Disneyland.
I think Bogey had to go after him, and
yeah,
he was going to Death Valley and Disneyland.
I guess everybody that's raised a bunch of kids can tell a lot of things that they did, growing up.
The only one that didn't get in trouble was Mickey. He's the only one that didn't get in trouble.
Mickey got in trouble every time he turned around, because I don't know, even if he hadn't did anything, he got blamed for it,
Can you name one time that he
I
got
don't know.
blamed for something that he was innocent of?
You can't remember?
No, I cannot remember. I've heard things, but coming from you, I would believe.
I'd have to have Mickey here to tell me that, because I can't remember things,
Okay.
But he got more whippings. He just got more spankings, because he'd always be the one that did it.
Just tell it like it is. Oh.
But he got too many whippings, I think. Because I guess even the middle child, he was so healthy, because he walked so early, and he was just a healthy baby, boy. And Steve was a premature baby,
Is that right?
and he didn't know. We never let him do anything, and he's lazy today. He still don't want to do much. It does spoil kids when they don't have too much responsibility.
Well, what's the truth, if any, of the story that's been going around? I don't know if it's truth. One time, Dad didn't really know Terry, and one Christmas he looked at Terry and he says, "Boy, why don't you go on home? It's Christmas time." And Terry says, "Well, I am home. You're my father." Is there any truth to that story?
No, it isn't.
Now Terry tells that.
Oh, Terry tells that. But Terry was always a little shy person when he was little, and he just so scared. He could just get scared at the least little thing, and he'd hide a lot of times if one of the big ones got a whipping about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, he'd go and hide somewhere because he's so scared he'd get whipped. He never got a whipping because he stayed out of the way. He tried to stay out of the way, but he wanted to be big like you boys. He'd get him a little old rifle, and here he'd go to the edge of the woods, and he'd come running back. He said, Oh, there's so many sounds in the woods. It'd scare him. He'd get up in the night, you know, he'd hear sounds in the night. Even after he got grown, he'd come running down the hall, you know, he'd say, somebody's in this house. I
Well,
tell you,
excuse me, go ahead.
it's rough raising them, but it's a lot of, you know, a lot of fun too. You know, just so many fun things happen that overshadows the any bad things that ever happen. You know, it overshadows the.
Well, for the benefit of my grandkids, Mom, why don't you just tell them how good I was? and, and how I helped you wash dishes. And,
Yeah, you were. You were just like a little mama a lot because your dad worked you know, a lot. And he'd try to work 2 and 3 jobs lots of times.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have to have somebody to help me with the babies, you know. And I think that the older one always catches it more than any of the rest.
I
Anyway.
sure did.
And you'd always say, I sure don't want no kids when I get married. And the first, and you had a set of twin girls. And then had an older girl too. You had a set of twins to die too.
Yeah,
and that was
we
the
lost,
first
we
one.
lost a set of twins. Yeah.
And then Sherry came along, and then Kim and Kathy, and just such beautiful girls. And Bogey, he's got 2 boys, and they've grown now, and one of them's married, and got 2 cute little great grand boys.
Well, let me ask you, Mom, can you name my kids? What are their names?
I just told you.
Kim and Kathy and Sherry?
Yeah,
Now, how about the next one's Bogey? Can you name his?
I just told you about it.
Okay.
I was saying that, you know, Bogey had Eddie and Tony.
Uh-huh.
And Tony, he hadn't got married. He's the oldest, and so Eddie, he's 15 months younger than Tony, but he's got 2 little sweet little boys now. One of them, their names is Kyle and Garrett. Well, Garrett came along, and he's 2 years old now, and Kyle, he's 1. And they got a girl named Lori too. She came along 9 years after Eddie and Tony was born. She came along, and now she's 17, and she'll be 18 this the 5th of February. She'll be 18.
How about Mick? You know his.
Well, Mickey married a girl here in California, Elaine, and had a little boy named Mickey. He's a grown boy now. He's
Sure is.
18.
He's a big boy too.
Mm-hmm. He hadn't. He helps his dad in the upholstery shop. And Mickey's in upholstery.
How about Steve's kids?
And so Steve, he had a girl and a boy, Wendy and Derek, and they Wendy's 19 now, and Derek's 17. They both think they're grown now.
Did Terry have any children?
Yeah, Terry's got, he's got 2. John. Well, Nicole came first.
Nicole came first.
She was such a baby doll. She
reminds
me of
She was beautiful.
She reminds me of this great grandbaby here. She looked like a little Cupid doll when she was born. She was the cutest thing. You know, she had a lot of hair, just like Andrea's got. You know, she was so pretty, but she's 18. She'll be 19.
She's still pretty.
Yes.
Very lovely.
She's out of school and she's going to nurses training now.
Let's see. Who else? There's so
John,
many.
he's 17. John's just 15.
Did Patsy have any kids?
Yeah, Patsy Patsy's got kids. Pat's got, she's got 3. She's got Mitchell, we call him Mitch. He's 20. And Susan. And Susan, let me see how old she is. She's 16. She's got her driver's license. And Chrissy. We call her Chrissy, yeah. And she's 11. She's 12 now. Yeah, she's 12.
Chrissy likes basketball. She writes me a letter every now and then. She's in love with a boy. I wish I remember his name. She thinks she's in love with a boy. She's not.
Well, Susie's liking the boys now.
Susie's
She's
starting to like the
16.
boys.
Yeah.
She can
They both-
answer a telephone faster than anybody in the world.
And they both just cute as they can be, though, when they're
Yeah.
sweet girls. And then, let's see, and Sammy, he's married and had a little girl, Jennifer, and, what's her middle name? I can't
don't know.
remember. Jennifer Lynn, I think. And she's 20, she's the same age as Mitch.
She lived in Hammond, didn't she?
She lives in Hammond, and they separated, and then, got a divorce, and then he married another girl, and she had a little boy for him. His name's Eli.
He's how old now?
Let's see how old Eli is.
He's about 10 or 12.
Yeah, he's 11. He's
11.
11. And that marriage didn't work out, so he's married a sweet girl now. She had 3 kids, and their names are Tammy, and she's about 22. And then they got another one named Eddie. They call him Poochie. He's 16. And then they got a little boy named John, and he's the same age as Eli. He's 11.
Mm-hmm.
And, but
That's Jean's girls by her first
by
name.
her first
I mean,
husband.
Her kids, rather.
But they got a good marriage and a good sound marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm real proud
I am too.
that he's finally settled down and got a good family now.
Real nice.
And,
And they got a nice home with a
Yes,
lot of land.
I know it.
And
They love their home.
really,
and
really neat. I'm
Yes.
very happy for them.
I am too.
Well, tell me, Mom, you're out here in California in 1989 and January, and my daughter Kathy gave birth to a little girl on December the 14th,
well, I didn't tell about
1988.
your kids.
Why don't you tell about my kids, and then you tell about Andrea if you want to,
Okay.
and that is your first
Yeah.
granddaughter,
Yeah, my first great granddaughter.
great granddaughter,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, Sherry, she's how old is Sherry right now?
She's 28,
Yeah.
27,
Mhm. And Kim and Kathy are 25.
5.
And they all got
25.
They all married and got good husbands, and the weddings were so pretty. I came out to each one of the weddings, and they were so pretty. And now Kathy, the twin, she's living in Washington. Her husband, he's going to Bible school. He's already finished.
He graduated last
He
year.
graduated last year, and he's trying to get his master's now. And but they got a little baby girl that was born the 14th of December. And these people are so crazy over it. I am too. But they are. This grandpa sitting here, loves that baby. We went to church Sunday, and boy, he just so proud and cocky over that baby.
She is cute, isn't she?
Isn't she though? She is precious.
You gave her a bath this morning.
We just I'm just spoiling her rotten, and I sure am gonna miss her when I leave to go back. I guess she'll be walking the next time I see her. She'll be walking.
Okay.
I want to go back and pick up something that we left off on. You know, we've had good memories through our life, and we've had bad memories, but lots of times good memories outweigh the bad. But our sad time was your dad had a blood clot to go to his lung in '71, and he just lasted about an hour and passed away. And it was sad for all of us, but we always we have to pick up and keep going, and try to make a new life for ourselves. So I moved to Laurinburg and got a job at Abbott Laboratories out there, and I had the best job I ever had. I sure did enjoy working, and I started going to church and found a good church. And of course, after a couple of years, I met a man that was going to church there too, and he's a good Christian man, and his name's James J. Hardwick. We call him J.A. And he's a good man. He's a good Christian man, and that's what I wanted, because I had just, given my heart to the Lord, and I wanted to live for Him. And so our marriage has been good. We've been married 15 years now, and we're still together. And his wife died too, and so she hadn't been dead for just a few months when I met him, and he really needed somebody, and I needed somebody too. I guess we were both lonesome, and but I think the highlight of this talking about it, giving birth to babies and having children and all is a wonderful time, because it's just a new rebirth. But just giving your heart to the Lord means more than anything in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so thankful that I'm trying to live for Him now, because He comes first in my life. Because that's all that matters now, is living for Him, and because everything is going to pass away one of these days, and it might not be too long. We never know when that time's coming, and that's the way I feel about it. Everything is going to be destroyed, except for the people that's living for Him and serving Him, and that's what matters in this whole world, is loving Him and obeying Him and living for Him and being a witness for Him. And I always want to put Him first, because I lived for years and years without Him being in my life, and I regret it a lot of times, but I just thank God that He saved me and made me a new person, a new creature, and I'm so happy. He's filled me with the Holy Spirit, and I just want to live and serve Him and enjoy my family and enjoy my husband and have a good home.
Well, you've been a good mother, the best one I've ever had, and I just thank you. And I speak for all the kids. You've been the best mother that any family could have had or asked for.
I've made a lot of mistakes through my life, I know that. But God forgives you for everything that you've ever done, through the years. There's a lot of things that you do that you're not, happy about it. But you can't go back and erase all that, but God can erase every bit of it. I don't know much else.
And that's the story.
Yeah, that's the story.
And we just appreciate